Well, hey, it's Seth again, and a few weeks ago, Heather and I shared our stories, and mine specifically was about how I came to faith. What I didn't know actually on that same day and wouldn't find out for some time later is that another big God moment started evolving for me on the very same day that I gave my life to Jesus. So, you see, I told you about going into Jan's office and asking for prayer for the very first time, and that prayer request was to find a job locally. We were living in Glasgow, and it was just something that I knew I wouldn't be able to drive back and forth to Louisville forever. I'm sure there's somebody out there that does it, but it's not for me. And so, yeah, I asked for that prayer, and that's really kind of where this journey started. I internally set a goal that I would like to find this job by Christmas time. This point, it was August, so August to December, roughly 5 months. I wanted to find a job, and really, not only did I want to find a job, I wanted to maybe make some sort of a career change. See, I worked in retail, and retail had required long hours, and it required weekends, which I had worked since the beginning of my working career at 14 years old. I'd always worked weekends, and I wanted some of that in my new job because I'd never had it, and I needed the time with my kids. But really, on top of all that, I wanted to have the time to serve God the way that I want to serve God. And so I started praying along with the prayer team at church, and I'm wanting this new job, and as time goes, we get a little closer to Christmas, and I say, okay, I'm not going to find it by Christmas, no big deal, maybe January or February. Well, January or February comes along, and now I'm starting to get frustrated. They're making changes at my current job, changes that affected us financially, changes that affected our time at work and what they asked of us. And I'm doing all this again while making this drive that I knew I didn't want to be making. And so again, I become to get really frustrated, and so I start complaining daily to Heather. I'm like, this is what's going on today. This is all the things that are happening, and all the while I'm still praying about it. It's getting harder to pray. It's getting harder and harder to ask God for something that you've been asking for at this point 6 or 7 months, and so here I am, right in the middle of frustration and trying to be a Christian and pray about things in a big way, and I'm just mad. So I began to seek counsel from Pastor Nick, and really just kind of meet with him monthly, or I think sometimes it was bi-weekly, and just talk through some of these things. So again, I'm trying to pray, I'm trying to counsel, I'm trying to vent frustration with Heather, and I think that's really kind of where I started to get into my low point. And we hit the pandemic. Of course, that affected everybody in different ways. No matter what you thought about it, it was happening, and so because it was happening, things at work again started happening and changing, and so I just get to this really low point to where week in and week out, I'm just not in a good place with my job. And so we get to middle of summer by this point, and again, I've been in this low for a few months, and we get to middle of summer. I think it was late July, early August, and I get this email at church one morning from work, and it just sends me over the edge. I told Heather, I texted her, I said, come to the back, we've got to talk. And so we stepped out the back door during the middle of a service, and I told her, I said, I think I'm just done. And I'll never forget, she looks at me and says, Just quit. We'll be okay. And that was hard for me. I'd always worked. That's just what I did, and that's who I was, and I provided, and that's what I knew. And so for her to tell me, just quit, we'll be okay, was not an easy pill to swallow. But she said, I think we just have to take this leap of faith. And so that's what I did. The next morning, Monday, I go into work, and I called my boss, and I said, hey, I'm done. I'm gonna be leaving. I'll give you the proper time. What is helpful for you, actually, I think I said, and we worked out a time where I would be leaving with no job lined up, with about a month's worth of money to get me through our daily lives. We thought, okay, if we've got a month, that I can just be hard on the search to find a job, or just take really anything that pops up in the interim to prolong that until I find what I'm looking for. But I was done. And I think Heather actually even spoke to another person at church about it, and that person asked her and said, well, how do you feel about it? And she said, well, I don't know if I'm in denial or what it is, but I'm really at peace with it. And so, yeah, that's just where we were. We were at peace with a decision that was potentially life-changing, life-altering in so many ways. And then comes Tuesday, where I'm sitting at this place that I didn't want to be, and I get an email. Of course, I had applied for so many jobs, interviewed for a few in the previous weeks before I had put in this notice to leave, but I hadn't gotten any calls back. And so I'm sitting here on this Tuesday, and I get this email. Actually, I believe it was a phone call. It was a phone call, and it was a recruiter from my current employer. And so I answer the call, and I talk to her, and she tells me things about this job, and that it's Monday through Friday, and that it's 6 a.m. until you finish your route, and it's the benefits were great, and there's just so many positive things about this. And I'm like, oh yes, I'd love to sit down and talk with somebody more about it. And she said, no, we want to offer you the job. And that was it. Here I am today, serving God the way I want to serve God, spending time on the weekends with my kids and my family, and really doing things that I'd never been able to do before with so much more time than I had before. And I have to think that all started from a prayer request that led to continuous prayers through me, support from other Christians around me, and one giant leap of faith. So, because of all of those things, I sit here today, a changed person again in so many ways, and continue to see God doing so many things in so many different people. And all it takes is the relationship, a true relationship where you talk to God and you put all your trust in Him.